This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
We are in a transition time for Jesus right now. We're ending chapter 11 today, and we begin chapter 12 next Sunday. But this is a significant transition time for Jesus, as you will see. So if you have your Bibles, or if you're using the study guide, or you can just follow along up on the screen, in John chapter 11, beginning with verse 45. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, what had he just done? He had raised Lazarus from the dead. Amazing miracle. Well, they'd seen what he had done, and they believed in him. Verse 46 says, "But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done." Now, why they went to the Pharisees and told them isn't because they were tattletaling. I think they just went to the Pharisees and said, "Look, this is what's going on. You know, you guys are maybe hammering him and everything for, because you don't like him and everything, but this is what he did." So I suspect there was some of that. There may have been some people that were tattletaling type thing, but I think most of it was just that people were just so awed and so amazed at seeing what God was doing that they were talking about it. Verse 47, "So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, 'What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation.'" There was one of the motivations. That's what they were so afraid of. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You don't know anything, nor do you understand that it's better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish." Now, he did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not only for the nation, and not the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. Now, what Caiaphas was saying was basically he was being used by God. Was he a believer? No. But he was being used by God to tell them, explain to them, this is what the Messiah is going to do. The Messiah is going to die. The Messiah is going to die one for all. That's what's going to happen. And so, from that day on, they made plans. Verse 53 says, from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus, therefore, no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim, and there he stayed with the disciples. Now, what these verses tell us is that when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, that became a turning point in his ministry. The chief priests and the Pharisees were afraid that as more and more people started following Jesus, the Romans would become alarmed and step in. Because remember, the Jews were looking for a king, and the Romans were not going to let them get a king. And the Pharisees and the high priests and all the priests and everything were afraid that if they had some freedom, they had some control over their nation. Rome had allowed that. But they were afraid that if the Romans felt like they were going to make somebody their king, that Rome would step in. And there would be incredible bloodshed, and they would lose their privileges. And so, by doing so, they were afraid that they assumed that such a move by the Romans would just shatter this fragile agreement that they had between Israel and Rome to continue their religious practices and basically rule over themselves. So they were determined that it would be in Israel's best interest to do away with Jesus. And it wasn't that they hated Jesus. I mean, some of them did. It was pretty obvious. But they were thinking of it from a political standpoint. And so they decided it's best to do away with him, and so they started making plans to eliminate him. This became a turning point in Jesus' life. Now, some turning points are good. Some aren't. And today we're going to look at how do you handle a turning point in your life? Because all of us have turning points in our lives. In every life, there are things that happen that change the course of our life.
On behalf of Dan Hurst and the Open Class, we want to thank you for watching. We hope it was a blessing.